The village, Umudecay, was known for its fertile lands, where the crops grew tall and strong, and its people were renowned for their craftsmanship. But what truly set Umudecay apart was its master weaver, Amara. Her skill with the loom was unmatched, and her fabrics were said to be so beautiful that they brought tears to the eyes of those who beheld them. Amara's fame had spread far beyond the borders of Umudecay. People traveled from distant lands to purchase her creations, each piece woven with threads of vibrant color and intricate patterns that told the stories of her people. But what no one knew, except for the village elders, was that Amara possessed a spool of golden thread, a thread so rare and powerful that it was said to be woven from the very essence of destiny itself. This golden thread had been passed down through generations in Amara's family. It was a gift from the spirits, bestowed upon her ancestors for their devotion and service to the village. The elders had always warned that the thread was not to be used lightly. Once woven into fabric, the pattern it created would bind the fate of all who lived in the village. Amara had always kept the thread hidden, fearing the consequences of its power. For many years, life in Umudecay was peaceful. The villagers were content, and the land provided everything they needed. But one year, everything began to change. The rains, which had always come like clockwork, failed to arrive. The sun beat down mercilessly, turning the once lush fields into barren wastelands. The rivers, which had always flowed abundantly, began to dry up. The cattle grew thin, and the crops withered. The once vibrant village became a shadow of its former self. The villagers were consumed by fear and despair. They could not understand what had caused this calamity. They prayed to the spirits, offered sacrifices, and sought answers in the stars, but all to no avail. The cause seemed unbreakable, and hope began to fade from the hearts of the people. Amara watched helplessly as her beloved village withered away. Each day, she heard the sorrowful whispers of the villagers, their once bright eyes now clouded with despair. She could feel the weight of their suffering pressing down on her soul. Every night, as she lay in bed, she would stare at the wooden box containing the golden thread, her mind torn between fear and duty. The words of the elders echoed in her mind: once woven, the fabric cannot be undone. The fate of the village will be sealed. One fateful night, as Amara sat in her dimly lit workshop, pondering the fate of her people, there was a knock at the door. Startled, she opened it to find a mysterious figure standing in the shadows. The figure was draped in a cloak as dark as the night sky, and their face was hidden beneath a hood. The air around them seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy. "Amara, daughter of the loom," the figure said in a voice that was both familiar and strange, like the rustling of leaves in the wind. "The time has come to use the golden thread. The spirits have spoken, and they demand a weaver to shape the destiny of Umudecay." Amara's heart raced. She had always known that this day would come, but she had never imagined it would be so soon, or under such dire circumstances. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. The figure stepped forward, and though their face remained hidden, Amara felt a sense of calm wash over her. "I am a messenger from the ancestors, sent to guide you in this task. But beware, Amara, for destiny is a double-edged sword. The choices you make will have far-reaching consequences." With that, the figure handed Amara a small, intricately carved box, its surface covered in ancient symbols. "Inside this box is the needle you will use to weave the fabric of destiny. The thread you hold is powerful, but it is your heart that will guide your hands. Remember, the pattern you create will bind the fate of your people, and once woven, it cannot be undone." Before Amara could ask any more questions, the figure vanished into the night, leaving her alone with the box and the weight of the task before her. The next morning, Amara awoke with a sense of determination. She knew what she had to do, but the fear of the unknown gnawed at her heart. She retrieved the golden thread from its hiding place and opened the box the mysterious figure had given her. Inside was a silver needle, its eye just large enough to thread the golden strand. As she sat at her loom, the golden thread shimmering in the morning light, Amara took a deep breath and began to weave. The fabric that emerged was unlike anything she had ever created. The golden thread glowed with an ethereal light, casting shadows that danced like spirits on the walls of her workshop. The patterns that formed were intricate and mesmerizing, telling a story of the village's past, present, and future. As Amara wove, she saw visions of Umudecay's history, the battles fought, the love shared, the sacrifices made by her ancestors. But as the fabric grew, so too did the shadows. Dark images began to appear, visions of pain, loss, and suffering. Amara's heart ached as she realized that the curse on the village was not random. It was a consequence of an ancient wrong, a betrayal that had angered the spirits of the land. The fabric revealed the truth: the curse could only be lifted by a great sacrifice, a life for a life. The spirits demanded the life of someone beloved by all, someone whose death would bring the village to its knees but would also break the curse. Amara's hands trembled as she continued to weave. Her mind raced with the implications of what she had seen. Who would be the sacrifice? Whose life would be taken to save the village? The answer came to her with a clarity that shook her to her core: her only son, Obimna. Obimna was the light of Amara's life, her pride and joy. He was loved by all in the village, known for his kindness, his laughter, and his unyielding spirit. The thought of losing him was unbearable, but Amara knew that the spirit's demand was clear. To save the village, she would have to give up the most precious thing in her life. Tears streamed down Amara's face as she wove the final threads of the fabric. Each stitch felt like a dagger to her heart, each pattern a reminder of the future she was about to create. She could see Obimna's face in the fabric, his bright eyes and warm smile, and it broke her to know that this would be his fate. As the last thread passed through the needle's eye, the fabric was complete. It shimmered with a light that filled the room, and Amara knew that the destiny of Umudecay was sealed. She collapsed in grief, her heart heavy with the knowledge that her son's life was the price of peace. The next morning, the village awoke to a miraculous sight. The rivers, which had been dry for months, were flowing once more. The fields, which had been barren, were now green with new life. The curse had been lifted, and the villagers rejoiced, praising Amara for her gift. But as the sun rose higher in the sky, a terrible cry echoed through the village. Obimna, who had been healthy and full of life the day before, had fallen gravely ill. No healer could find the cause of his sickness, and despite their best efforts, Obimna's condition worsened with each passing hour. Amara stayed by her son's side, her heart breaking as she watched the life slowly drain from his eyes. She knew that this was the spirit's doing, that this was the price she had paid to save the village. But knowing did not lessen the pain. On the night of the full moon, as the village celebrated the return of their prosperity, Obimna took his last breath. Amara held him close, whispering stories of the old days, of the times they had shared, and of the love that would never fade. As his life slipped away, the golden thread in the fabric began to dim, its power exhausted. Amara, daughter of the loom, the figure said softly, "Your task is complete, and the spirits are pleased, but they have seen your pain, and they wish to offer you a final gift." Before Amara could respond, the figure stepped aside, and another figure appeared, Obimna, her beloved son, standing before her, his eyes filled with the wisdom of the ancestors. "Mother," Obimna said, his voice gentle and soothing, "you wove the destiny of our people, and in doing so, you wove a new path for me. I am not lost. I walk with the ancestors now, and I will watch over our people for all eternity." Amara's heart swelled with both joy and sorrow as she reached out to touch her son. Though she could not feel him physically, his presence was warm and comforting, like the embrace of a long-lost loved one. "You sacrificed everything for the village," Obimna continued, "and the spirits have granted me the role of guardian. I will protect Umudecay, just as you have." The golden thread's power was not just in its ability to weave fate, but in the love and sacrifice that you poured into it. With those words, Obinna smiled and began to fade, leaving behind a single golden thread, the last of the spool. Amara held it in her hands, tears streaming down her face. She knew that this thread was a symbol of hope, a reminder that love could transcend even the boundaries of life and death. The next day, Amara wove the final golden thread into a new fabric, one of hope, resilience, and the promise of a future shaped by the choices of those who came before. This new fabric was placed in the center of the village, where it glowed with a light that seemed to come from the heavens themselves. The story of the weaver and the golden thread of destiny became legend, passed down through generations. The villagers of Umudecay would gather around the fabric each year to tell the tale of Amara and Obinna, a tale of love, sacrifice, and the delicate balance between fate and choice. And so, the village thrived, forever guided by the spirits and the golden thread that wove their destiny. Please subscribe and turn on notification for upcoming stories. Thank you.